观众朋友，大家好，欢迎来到本次的傲神金股小股票大收益，我是 Angel。今天我非常高兴能够邀请到曾经在朋友圈非常火的一个纳米来自草泥马羊驼身上的纳米抗体的一家公司它目前是在纳斯达克登陆，它的代码是 BVXV。那么我们先跟这家公司的 CEO Amy 打声招呼。Hello Amy。
Hello, hi Angel.
Hi, thanks for attending our today's interview. It's my honor to have you here. And before that, I will ask you some questions for the interview. But before that, I will to announce the safe harbor. So let me translate in Chinese first. 好，那么在本次采访之前，我会说一下安全港的声明。在本次的所有的采访当中，我会用到一些计划、继续、可能、将这样的词语，一些表达方式，希望大家能够理解。然后在采访他之前呢，其实我有做一些功课，我稍微跟大家介绍一下。那么我是在朋友圈看到这家公司的，当时还蛮火的，有很多人在转。那我就看说，羊驼，我当时也跟Amy有说，羊驼它在国内还挺火的叫草泥马，还帮他翻译了一下草泥马是什么。然后草泥马身上它的可有的抗体提取出来，跟我们人类的抗体跟我们人类的机体非常的契合。那 Brant 这家公司呢，它的总部是来自于以色列的。那现在我也是在跟 Amy 他在以色列，我在纽约这里跟他的现场。那么它是一个具有独特优势基于 VHH 的一个抗体 Nano App 的一个创新。它从研发开始到商业化的新管道，可以治的病非常多。那最耳熟能详就是我们最近的 COVID-19 了。那 COVID-19 已经 pandemic 已经结束了，但是会后面是持续会有这个病在那里。那包括一些像银屑病非常难治的哮喘一些关节炎包括湿性黄斑病变，这些我们这个都可以去治疗。那我为什么说它从草泥马身上那个抗体提取出来？大家可以看到，这是草泥马身上的那个纳米抗体和我们人类的抗体的一个完美无瑕的一个契合感。那我们公司的价值我也一起说一下，它从制造开始到 R&D 到产品，整一个主要是打这几个：是安全、它的便利它的免疫大家应该知道那个打抗体的话会越打越没有效果它这个人会产生一种就是抵抗性但是我们从羊驼身上提取的这个非常的好，它的这种就时间的长短，抗体在我们身体留的长短会更长，但是它相反它的安全性会更长然后它的剂量要求会更低，所以它包括对一些靶向的一些药物的一个亲和力都非常好。所以我最后来做一个总结吧，它是一个降低药物开发的风险，跟传统药物开发相比我们的纳米抗体的对市场来说，比如说分子靶向它的作用机制它的物质的去组成包括我们最关心的是商业化那经过验证的一个治疗，它是应该说是当时是第一个在这个市场上是有竞争对手第一个市场上的竞争对手是一家叫赛诺菲，现在已经被赛诺菲收购48亿收购的一家公司那么我们现在做的可要比这个还要牛逼的地方在哪些？好，我直接来问他。Okay, thanks, Amy. I just introduced the brief background of our BandVax. So let's kick off to the questions. So the first question: who are the current competing nanobody company, and what are their advantage and disadvantage?
Sure. So the main we have two main nanobody companies that are competing. The main one and the one that is commercial is Sanofi. It has acquired in 2018 the Belgian nanobody vanguard company Ablinks for $4.8 billion. Ablinks was also the company that coined the name nanobody. It's a proprietary trademark of Sanofi now, so that's why we call them nanoabs, because the term nanobody, even though it's very common in the scientific community, it's a trademark of Sanofi. So we call them nanoabs, but it's the same thing. These are VHH antibodies derived from camelid animals, in our case, alpaca. So Sanofi is using its nanobody platform for development of biologic drugs for treatment of rare blood diseases. The second competitor is one that you probably noticed in the trade recently. It's called MoonLake, MoonLake, Immunotherapeutics. It's a spin-off from Ablinks that specializes in development of nanobodies for the treatment of psoriasis, HS, and psoriatic arthritis by targeting cytokines interleukin-17A and interleukin-17F. MoonLake, differently from us, they are using a trimer. So it's 3 antibodies, 1 antibody for interleukin-17A, 1 antibody for interleukin-17F, and another one for human serum albumin to extend the half-life of the drug. And so that in this way, their drug, when is absorbed into the blood, can stay for a longer time. We are also developing a pipeline of nanobodies. We are not developing only one. For example, MoonLake has the proprietary of one drug for interleukin-17, and Sanofi have few. We have a deep pipeline that we in-licensed from the Max Planck Institute. We have a pipeline of nanobodies, anti-COVID-19, anti-interleukin-17A and F for psoriasis, anti-interleukin-13 and TSLP for asthma, and anti-angiopoietin-2 and VEGF for wet macular degeneration, wet AMD. In addition, our nanobodies are differentiated from the competition by the route of administration and the potential superior side effect profile. For example, our COVID-19 nanobody is an inhaled nanobody, which is the first one to be inhaled for treatment and prophylactic prevention of SARS-CoV-2 COVID directly in the lungs. Our nanobody that is targeting the interleukin-17A and F, like the one from MoonLake, the difference is that we have a single monomer. It's a very small antibody that is able to neutralize at very high potency both A and F versions or isoforms of the interleukin-17. And therefore, we don't need to develop a complex molecule. They have, I remind you, 3 components: anti-interleukin-A, 17A, anti-interleukin-17F, and anti-human serum albumin. We have only one, and it targets all that we need. So the difference is that we can inject our drug directly into the skin, into the dermis, where the inflammation of the psoriasis exists. And so that's a very important differentiation and competitive advantage. The current monoclonal antibodies and the new one from MoonLake as well, they are all targeting severe cases of psoriasis. But severe cases of psoriasis, they only compose 15% of the psoriatic patients. 85% of the psoriatic patients are mild to moderate, and they don't have real drugs that can be approved for their use without exposure to health risks and adverse effects. In our case, we administer it directly into the skin, into the lesions. Our vision is to be the Botox solution for psoriatic patients. It's a prescription drug. It's a drug reimbursable, etc. But it's a very potent, specific antibody that doesn't need the patient to inject every month like the ones that are currently developed, also the one that is developed by MoonLake or the ones that are available in the market. We don't need the patient to inject it every month. What we need to do is a local treatment, small injections with a 1 millimeter needle. We deliver a very small amount, 100 microliter per injection. We make few injections in the area of the lesion. And then after 1 or 2 times of treatments like that, spaced by few days, we can achieve a healing of the skin, and then the next treatment will be only when there is a flare-up. Because indeed psoriasis is a chronic disease, but the lesions are acoustic flare-ups. So once you took care of this flare-up, the next flare-up will happen because of stress, diet, environment, sleep, genetics, but it might take a year or 8 months. So there is no need in the mild to moderate psoriasis to keep injecting yourself every month at a very high cost to the insurance. It's about $35,000 per patient for these biologic injections. In the mild to moderate, all you need is 1 to 2 treatments that are quite cheap. And then the next treatment can take 20 weeks later, 30 weeks, 50 weeks. We don't know, but it's really spaced out. So that's the differentiation between our drug and our competitors. Yeah, that's for the nanobodies. Specifically for the COVID, the main competitor is actually Pfizer, because for COVID, Pfizer controls 90% of the market for antivirals. In 2022, okay, but I think maybe I'll touch it later on the, yeah.
But I need to translate the first question. 好，我刚才问的是目前竞争的纳米公司有哪些？他说有2家，然后我问了他们的优势跟劣势。那目前呢，刚才我也有提到，一家是被赛诺菲在18年48亿收购的比利时的公司啊，是抗体先锋公司，叫 Ablinx 啊。其实刚才我一直有说nano-ab 其实也是因为这家公司创造了纳米抗体这个词。那么它现在是赛诺菲旗下的，那赛诺菲在用它的纳米抗体呢去做一些罕见病的血液病的治疗。第二个值得我们关注的一个竞争对手，其实也是 Ablinx 出来的一个子公司，它现在分出来的子公司叫 Moomoo， 那 Immunotherapeutics。那它是专门针对细胞因子 IL-17A 和 IL-17F 去做银屑病银屑病关节炎这方面的。那 Moomoo 它用的是3聚体的一个抗体，分别是 IL-17A 加 IL-17F 再加抗人血清蛋白，以延长药物在血液中的一个半衰期。那么大概是每月要注射1次。我们现在的 Bandvax 正在开发一个系列的纳米抗体，包括 COVID-19， 包括治疗牛皮癣的 IL-17A 和 IL-17F， 治疗哮喘的抗体 IL-13， 还有那个抗 TSLP。以及治疗湿疹的 AMD， 也就是黄斑变性的一个抗体 AMG2 和抗体 VEGF。此外，我们的纳米抗体在给药的过程以及潜在的副作用和这2个公司相比有非常大的不一样性以及优越性。比如说 COVID-19 我们现在用的是一个 inhale， 也就是吸入式的一种方式，它可以直接在肺部去治疗我们的 SARS-CoV-2。然后它的靶向的 IL-17A 和 IL-17F， 它的纳米抗体是一种单一的抗体。那么 Moomoo 它们的是不同的2个独立的纳米抗体。那这样子的优势是可以通过不是那种疼痛的注射，就是非常简单的一种注射，就可以到银屑病变的这个皮肤的真皮层。这样子就可以让我们的药物直接输送到发炎的这个部位，就不需要很大剂量的那种让病人长期的在血液中高浓度的那种药物像 Moomoo 就是那种药物像诺华的Concertix 也是那种药物。那这些会让你全身的血液都浸在这个里面，它一定是什么？是非常重症的病例。然而在实际上，像我们银屑病这个情况，重症病人是15%，非重症的病人是85%。他们不重症的人不需要这大剂量的让血液中充满着这样的药剂，所以我们 Bandvax 是针对这85%去给了一个很好的一个解决方案。它让药物跟血液之间接触的是小到，因为就很小的一针嘛，在这里打， 然后它会被酶分解，所以它在几个小时从皮肤进入到血液，然后再由血液再消失，在这个过程中让它自己去发生反应。而且你注射一次之后，因为它本身就是一个慢性病，你可能就已经好，就是暂时性来说就好像皮肤就不错。那到下一次各种环境啊压力可能又出现的时候，你再返回接受治疗，这就可以去防止我们的患者有一种长期的药物的一种威胁啊，也间接的可以告诉大家它的可持续性，那它对市场份额的这个都是非常可观的。好 let's back to the second question. Pfizer's Paxlovid, very famous drug these days, has a lot of restriction on taking it. For example, like most effective within 5 days of initial infection and cannot be used in combination with many commonly used drugs, such as a high blood pressure drug. Does nanobody drug have similar restriction or its unique restrictions? You mute?
Yeah. So our nanobody is highly specific to the virus. Differently from many small molecule drugs, it is not intervening with the biochemical pathways of the body of the host, but our drug is targeted specifically to the virus. And because it is so specific and it has such a high affinity and specificity, the chances of having adverse effects by interaction between our drug and other drugs, or between our drug and other areas in the body, like is normally common with small molecules, is very, very limited to non-existent. The other parameter is that our drug is inhaled directly to the lungs. So it's in a physical way, we send the nanobodies into the mucosal area in the lungs, and there it creates the Israeli iron shield in the lungs against the virus. So it waits there for the virus, and once the virus starts to replicate, it kills the virus in the mucous area. It doesn't expose the whole body to the drug. Okay. So that's one thing. We used the same animal model used by Pfizer, and in which Paxlovid was given immediately prior to infection with the virus. In the contrary, we waited 24 hours after the infection with the virus to ensure that the animals were quite sick with COVID before we gave them the inhaled nanobody as a treatment. So this means the animals, now when we saw the efficacy, it was clear that it is because of the drug, because they were quite sick, and 24 hours after start of the use of the drug, they started to regain their weight. The main parameter with hamster is weight loss. That's why everybody likes the hamsters in this model. You infect them with COVID, they lose about 15% of their body weight within 5 days. It's very clear graph. So what we did, we waited 24 hours post-infection, and then we gave them the inhalation, and it worked fantastically. Another differentiator is the potential of our drug to be used as prophylactic, basically before being infected. That's something that cannot be done with Paxlovid. In that same animal study, we also tested the efficacy of our inhaled nanobody in prevention of infection and disease development by applying the drug 3 hours before exposure to the virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And so we basically mimicked a situation where somebody, high age, have a lot of comorbidities like overweight, diabetes, pulmonary diseases like COPD, asthma, heart diseases, blood pressure diseases, etc. These are very vulnerable people to COVID. Now, imagine that these people now, instead of guessing whether they have enough immunity in their blood because of the vaccine, because we know that the vaccination protection is going down, but some person can have high protection, some persons can have low. Here, it's ready to use and it's effective immediately. So you take an inhalation. Let's say this person wants to go to the shopping mall, to the clinic for a checkup, to the hospital, to a commercial airline flight, conference. So they take a puff in the morning, and then they have at least 12 hours of full protection. So the animals we gave them the inhalation, even though we exposed them to a high level of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, they did not get any infection. It's basically a short-term, on-the-go, as needed, prophylactic inhaler that can be taken in your pocket because it's resistant to temperature change, and it can be used by the population at risk, but also for others, like, for example, travelers, health personnel, or first emergency responders, commercial flight attendants, etc.
Okay, thank you. 我问他，因为辉瑞这个 Paxlovid 上阵子非常火，大家还抢爆了，对吧？但是它服用是有很多限制，大家应该是知道的。比如说，你初次感染后5天内是有效的，5天之后你再用就没啥效果了的。而且它跟很多药物不能一起用，比如说高血压这个那个的，会产生药物之间的反应。那我问他，我们 Bindvax 我们的纳米抗体的药物是否有类似的限制，或者说我有什么别的特别的限制？那他想告诉我们是，我们的纳米抗体对病毒是有很高度的特异性啊，什么意思？就是说跟人体没有已知的相互作用啊，不会作用。而且他还发现药物互相作用或者说产生并发症的这种，目前来看预计是很小，甚至是可能不存在，就目前没有看到。那此外呢，我们的 Bindvax 用了一个模型，就是类似辉瑞的一个动物模型。那在感染病毒辉瑞他们是这样子的，是感染病毒之前就给了它 Paxlovid 然后我们这里是怎么样的？我们是做一个相反，就是说我们先让动物感染等24小时。24 hours 之后，确保这个动物已经是比较晚期或者已经出现一些严重的症状，再给它去做我们那个吸入式的一个药物治疗，然后把动物跟安慰剂的动物去个对比，发现24小时内产生的那个反应它的恢复非常非常的快，而且病症也更轻，那足以证明说是有效果的。那么还有一个和Paxlovid 不一样的地方，就是我们是吸入式的抗体，那它有一个潜在预防的作用。比如说在同一个动物研究当中我们让这些动物提前去吸这个我们的 Bindvax 的这个，然后呢再让它去触及到很高密度的 SARS-CoV 的这个SARS-CoV-2 这个环境当中，然后我们去看一个有做提前的吸，一个是没有，它的并发症的情况或者说出现感染的情况完全不一样。那也就是说，这个是可以给一些高危的人群，包括年纪大的比较身体比较差的旅行者包括一些像防疫包括医院一些偏卫生的这些人，在进入一些高风险的地方，比如说去做商业航班，比如说去医院，比如说去飞机场等等这些地方，我们都可以先去吸这个Bindvax 这个纳米抗体这个药物剂，因为它可以产生一个全方位的保护我感觉这个是非常有吸引力的，在商业化的过程当中。Okay, let's talk to the third question. Estimate enrollment time for COVID antiviral treatment.
Yeah, so what I'd like to discuss here is two things. First of all, we have currently two commercial programs that or two R&D programs that are on the lead. We have on one hand the COVID-19 program, which is currently waiting to be partnered with a large or medium-sized pharma company or be funded by governmental money like BARDA. So we have now embarked on a business development campaign to attract pharmaceutical companies to participate in partnership in development of this exciting nanobody-based self-inhaler for treatment and prevention of COVID-19. We have generated interest from few companies, and we are now in discussions with few of them, though in early stages, so yet to be seen. On the BARDA side, I want to mention that BARDA from the United States allocated $5 billion in fresh money as of April 15th, I think, as in a new program called program Next Gen. And the Next Gen is for next generation COVID-19 vaccines and therapeutics. So we are trying to seek funding from either of these options in order to fund the clinical trials. Now, looking into the interleukin-17 program that we are working on now, we are now in the preclinical and expecting to start the toxicity studies early next year, and with enrollment to the phase 1/2A in 2024 second half. Now, if I think for the COVID, people might think, oh, maybe there are not enough people that are infected with COVID. So we did see in 2022 110 million infections, excluding China, with 15% of the patients requiring antiviral treatment, and with Pfizer holding 90% of the market and recording sales of $18.9 billion. In 2023, the expectation is to have 112 million infections, again, excluding China, and 17% of the infected people will require antivirals. The increase in the number of infections and also the requirement for antiviral is generated from the fact that the vaccines effectivity on people is going down. People are getting less and less boosters, and the efficacy of the vaccine, the effectivity of the vaccine is disappearing after about 6 to 8 months. And so quite a lot of people now are literally not vaccinated. So again, we have developed herd immunity, but those that are at risk, immunocompromised, aged people, comorbidities, etc., they still get infected and they die in the hospitals. So everybody said in 2023, oh, COVID will not have so many. Well, Pfizer recorded $4 billion in sales in Q1 of 2023 for Paxlovid. I'm curious to see now, we just finished a few days ago Q2, let's see how much they sold. But Pfizer is recording quite a lot of sales for Paxlovid. And even if we are able to, and so I think for the clinical trial question, we can enroll people quite fast. That's not a problem. And sales, we think that is going to be a nice market for COVID. Of course, for psoriasis, it's a non-question.
OK, got it. 王仔问他就是那个新冠抗病毒治疗的预计入子时间啊，那他跟我说了很多信息。那首先，我先说一下，目前2022年啊，不包括中国的感染者是1.1个亿，15%是需要做抗病毒的治疗。辉瑞占的是90%的市场份额，营销是189亿。到2023年，预计是中国以外的地方大概是1.12亿。17%需要抗病毒的治疗，这个数据是来自于辉瑞2022年他们自己的年报。辉瑞预计2023年的销售是80个亿，然后库存大概是来自于2022年的库存堆积，但是2023年第一季度 Paxlovid 的销量是40个亿啊，这是分析师也感到非常惊讶的。那么说回我们 Binovax 现在的这个可吸入式的来自羊驼身上的纳米抗体，这个他们的管道开发和现状大家可以看一下，包括从 COVID-19 的治疗以及 COVID-19 预防，我刚才有说它既可以治疗又可以预防，他们也正在找几个合作对象啊，他们是想走2块，一块是跟比较大的一些公司知名的去合作，还有一个就是拿政府的钱去做 fund 来支持。大概是现在在谈一家是5个 billion 吧，是感兴趣的。然后我们现在 COVID 的这块，它应该是可以已经 就已经要走到临床这一里。然后还有一些别的，像刚才有提到 IL17A 啊、IL17F 啊这些，这正在是药物发现的，包括有一些是要进入下一个阶段去做一些制造啊什么。所以我们现在这家公司，我刚才看了一下，现在是1块1毛4吧，应该是，然后是400多万的一个市值，是非常非常被低估的，大家可以去了解一下。那整个这家公司我能够找到，然后联系上也是非常不容易的啊，然后我再把我后面想问的问题一并问掉。Okay, so this is the 1, 2, 3, the fourth question. What is the current capacity of GMP production line? You mute.
Yeah. So our current lines are designed for clinical supplies and early commercial launch. We hold a manufacturing site. It's very unique to our size. We are a small biotech company at R&D stage, preclinical. Yet, because of the history of the company, when we restructured the company, we inherited a manufacturing site, a septic manufacturing site, which is brand new. What we did is basically we divided the company into 2 business units. One is the R&D unit that generates the R&D programs, COVID, psoriasis, asthma, etc. And for that, we have the full equipment for the R&D development laboratories, the quality control laboratories, and the manufacturing that is required for animal studies, human studies, clinical studies, and even for the first commercial launch. On the other side, we decided now to utilize the manufacturing site, and just a few months ago, we launched a new business unit for CDMO, and we are now bringing up CDMO customers to BioNTech so that BioNTech can do process development, analytical method development, and GMP manufacturing for clinical supplies for other biotech companies, and by that also generating top line revenues immediately, not only in the future, and that will allow us to help in cost containment, absorb a lot of the fixed costs, and allow that investors' money will be directly invested in the R&D programs. It will give us a much bigger runway. Now, if one of our R&D programs then matures to be a massive blockbuster, as we plan to, of course, during the phase 3, we will already do a tech transfer to a large CMO that we can work with. You know, there are plenty of these kind of CMOs like Lonza, Catalent, etc. There are many. We will have to select one, work with the correct one, and ensure the commercial launch to that. But most probably, the scenario would be that once we are already in the phase 2, we will do an exit. So we will sell the rights to the drug to a large pharma company that will take partnership. And part of the deal will be that we do a tech transfer to them. And then the commercial launch project volumes will come from the large company. We will enjoy milestone payments, royalty payments, etc., to further propel our pipeline. But we will not become, at least not at the first product, a commercial company, but we will probably partner with a larger company, move the technology to them to ensure the most optimal sales. Because if you try to do everything by yourself when you're a small company, you can fail on many things. It's much smarter to partner with a reliable large company that can launch worldwide, that can do bundling with other products, and they have the sales force, the commercial ability, etc., etc.
Okay, understood. 我问他是 GMP 生产线目前的产能啊，那 GMP 是什么呢？我刚才有看一下 ，GMP 就是Good Manufacturing Product。他现在回答了我很多的问题啊。那他现在的生产线是专门为临床的早期商业推出而设计的。然后他们其实现在也做了2件事，把这个公司重组了一个架构。那一部分就是专门做 R&D， 另外一部分等于说是你也可以来用我们的实验室，然后去做你们的一些开发，这样子等于说是把它的成本给降下来。那自己 R&D 的那个产品线就继续去做一些研发，包括有必要的一些动物实验啊，包括人体实验等等。 临床实验。那另外一块就是可以说等于像外包给别人，你有什么需要你也可以来我这儿，我也可以帮你代运营啊等等。那么他希望的模式就是肯定是当更成熟的时候和进入第3阶段的时候，他就是把它转给一些大型的公司去做一些 CMO。那比较现实的想法，他目前想就是把这个技术给做好，做好之后把这个产权给卖给这个知识产权给卖给大的公司。因为你知道作为一个小的biotech 的公司，你什么事情都要自己做是很困难的，从研发开始到推广啊到商业化，整个渠道是非常长的，所以他还是会想把现在的产品线都做好，然后把未来的话就是卖给一些大的公司，然后继续做自己更多的一些那个研发。Okay, the last question, what's the current burn rate?
Yeah, so our burn rate is currently below $1 million, just below $1 million a month. This burn rate can be adjusted. Of course, if we have more investments, we can we have a larger capacity for development. If you look at this slide that you just pointed on, number 13, you can see that we have rights to quite a lot of molecules. So every time we develop a drug, it's about $750,000 to $800,000 a month. Of course, the more drugs you develop, you have efficiency, so you burn less per drug. But the more investments we have, the many more drugs that we can propel through and push through the pipeline, and also de-risk the situation for the investors, because as I said, we have a large capacity. It's a very unique situation for a pre-clinical company to have laboratories. We have laboratories with just the laboratory is like I think something like $9 or $10 million worth of equipment. A lot of the scientists that came to work for us, when I interviewed them, they were amazed because that's something, again, we inherited from the past company that we restructured. And so that we have such a massive capacity, and if we get enough investment money, we can propel and push more projects and generate more R&D opportunities. But with the current program that we have with psoriasis, we are burning just below $1 million a month.
Okay, understood. Thank you. 我最后一个问题问他的是目前的烧钱率是怎么样？他现在是一个月是低于100万美金啊，还是比较少的。那他让我回到这一张的图片来给大家看一下。那他现在每个月花销不多的原因是因为他就着重于这几个正在去开发，但他其实像我上面问的一个问题，生产线它产能其实是很足够的，如果有足够资金的话，它可以去做更多的事情。那目前它的一个月就烧100万。那我来总体的来总结一下，今天来到的是它的纳斯达克代码 BVXV 是来自草泥马羊驼身上的一个纳米抗体，它可以用的地方非常的多，优势也非常显然，就是可以跟我们人体的抗体做一个完美的契合。在整个过程中，他们现在着重于研究的一个是COVID 它治疗以及预防，还有比较耳熟能详的那些很难去治疗的，像我有哮喘、银屑病，和一些黄斑病变等的。都可以做。那么我之后还会持续的来关注这家公司，也希望大家对这家公司感兴趣，能够在下面留言，可以问我们的客服更多的关于这家公司的问题。那今天的采访就到这里，那希望大家可以关注我们纳斯达克的公司 BVXV 更多的问题来可以跟我私下里交流。Okay, thank you so much, hey Mia. Nice to having you today, and looking forward to have the next meeting with you.
Thank you very much, Angel. Thank you, everybody, for listening to our presentation. Any question, please feel free to shoot us an email at ir@beyondvax.com.
Got it. Thank you.